In the recent past, title and mortgage fraud has been a hot topic. Every social event that I go to these days, I get asked about title fraud and what can be done to prevent it. These days, it seems that title fraud is on more people's minds, and I get asked about it even more than my predictions for the real estate market. I cannot predict the real estate market, but hopefully I can give some guidance on preventing title fraud. So let's look at how title fraud can happen and what we, as real estate professionals, can do to protect our clients and ourselves. The frauds we are seeing are incredibly sophisticated. In some cases, multiple fraudsters are in cahoots with each other, participating as different parties to a transaction, i.e., the vendor, the buyer, the mortgage broker, and/or the private lender could all be in on the fraud. Regardless of their role, the fraudsters will have very convincing fake versions of all the usual documentation that someone in their role would typically have. Ever since the start of the COVID pandemic, e-signatures and virtual meetings have become the new normal. These days, it seems that when I ask clients to come into the office, they find it unusual and old school. It's more likely that you will meet clients virtually and sign documents remotely. As noted above, the frauds we are seeing are very sophisticated, and the fraudster clients seem to be 2 steps ahead of the game. They will have government IDs, property tax statements, corporate documents, and everything else you would normally expect them to have. And the fake documents are so well made, it is next to impossible for the untrained eye to spot them as fakes. I will share a personal experience that we had at our firm not too long ago. I had just completed a commercial transaction with an experienced lawyer in a large Bay Street firm. A week later, he called me to ask if I knew certain individuals who had just approached him to act for them on a mortgage refinance transaction. He had carried out a title search and had noticed that I had acted for these individuals in all their previous transactions, and he was curious as to why I was not acting for them on the new refinance transaction. He had asked the clients why they had changed lawyers, and the clients had told him that I had tested positive for COVID and was self-isolating, which he knew was not true because we had just completed another transaction together a week earlier. As soon as he started questioning the fraudsters on specific items, they realized that he was onto them and they vanished. This was a highly experienced lawyer, in a prestigious Bay Street firm, who had almost got scammed. Had he not dealt with me on a separate transaction the week earlier, he most likely would not have questioned the fraudster clients on why they were changing lawyers, and the fraudulent refinance transaction would have been successfully completed. A wide range of factors have contributed to the increase in title fraud. Depersonalized real estate transactions. The process of buying a home and obtaining mortgage financing has become increasingly depersonalized. An individual can now apply for a mortgage online or by video call, sign documents electronically, and enter into an agreement of purchase and sale without ever having to meet anyone in person. Easier access to vast amounts of information online. Electronic land registration, combined with electronically available real property assessment information, gives access to nearly all the information someone would need to initiate a title fraud. Increased pressure to close a real estate deal quickly. With the rise in use of e-signatures, virtual meetings, and electronically transmitted documentation, there is increased pressure on real estate professionals to close a transaction quickly. In the rush to complete the transaction, quite often some of the checks are either overlooked or missed out altogether. Older home-owning adults tend to live in very valuable homes that are most often mortgage-free. Fraudsters, attracted by the high equity value of an older person's home, sometimes prey upon the failing mental capacity of older adults to induce them to sign legal documents they do not fully understand. Use of forged powers of attorney. Another circumstance that we have seen an increase of is the use of a forged power of attorney to complete title transactions. This underlines the message that homeowners of all ages should always be vigilant not to give out powers of attorney that are not necessary. The phenomenon of title fraud seems to be closely tied to the rapidly changing landscape of the entire real estate and mortgage lending industries. There seems to be a desire to do everything faster and without physical interaction. Existing owner title insurance. Experienced real estate professional will always recommend that their clients, and especially those owning mortgage-free homes, purchase existing owner title insurance. This is the same type of insurance that a new homeowner might buy when completing a purchase transaction. It provides the best possible protection against title fraud committed by third parties without the knowledge, consent or involvement of the homeowner. The benefits of existing owner title insurance far outweigh its cost. Identity verification. As I have repeatedly noted above, one of the primary ways that the fraudsters manage to successfully carry out the fraud is by use of fake identification documents. At Real Corp Law, we have taken several measures to verify identification documents. We now will not start any work on a file until we have received copies of 2 pieces of government-issued IDs from the client. On a sale or refinance transaction, we will ask the client to either bring in or mail to our office original property tax bills, bank statements and utility bills so that we can verify the names and property address on the bills. If there is any discrepancy in the names on the IDs or the tax, utility bills, we will require more documentations to be provided. In-person meetings. If we have never dealt with the client before, we will ask for an in-person meeting to allow us to meet with the individuals, verify their identification and witness the signing of the documents. A no to rushed closings. As much as we like to accommodate our clients, sometimes if our spidey sense tells us something is off, and especially if it is a new client or coming from a new referral source, we will not handle a rushed closing. Disbursement of funds. Without any exceptions, the proceeds of the refinance or sale are disbursed only in the names of the registered owners and not to any third parties. Whenever title to a property is free and clear, it is prime target for fraudsters. Even when the homeowners have paid off their mortgage, it is always recommended to have a secured line of credit registered on title. While fraud can never be avoided altogether, taking these steps will help ensure that we avoid falling victim to it. The fraudster are always 2 steps ahead of the game. We will take necessary measures and make use of technology where possible to remain vigilant.